shared with you before that I believe, and I've taken this on myself, I believe our life's task is to touch heaven and change earth. When I think about that, I think touching heaven is, I want to be seated, in Ephesians, it talks about how we're seated with Christ in heavenly places. And I believe spiritually we are seated right there, spiritually, with Christ in the heavenly place. We got access to the throne. That's what prayer is all about. It's sitting at the feet of Jesus. It's hearing Jesus. It is knowing what's on the heart of the Father. And then we do it here on earth. Why do we have trouble praying? I think it's interference coming out of the second heaven. Coming out of, as God's wanting to answer our prayer. Notice Daniel had his prayer, God heard it. The moment he opened his mouth, 3 weeks later, the answer came. Some of our interference comes from demonic interference out of that second heaven. So if we're going to touch heaven and change earth, we've got to engage in spiritual warfare. Now, here's my definition of spiritual warfare. Let's put it up. Point number 2 is spiritual warfare. And we go to the next slide. It's two kingdoms at war. Now, you were saying that. You're just saying it in different ways. This is my definition. You can write yours down because they're all good. I want to take you to another Old Testament passage, or two passages. Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28. In those two passages, we read that Lucifer, another name for Satan, was God's adversary. Let me put up some passages some verses out of Isaiah 14, 12 to 15. And in verse 12 it says, and in the King James Version, and I think a couple of others, instead of, it says, how you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. That word, that little phrase, son of the dawn, in the King James Version, it actually says Lucifer. Lucifer, son of the dawn. And that's Satan's name. Morning star, son of the dawn. Now, I realise Jesus is also called the bright morning star. I'm not going to get into that tonight. That's another story for another time. But we get a picture of what happened with Lucifer, Satan. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens, I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of the assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. 5 times. 5 times. Lucifer, Satan, says to God, and in front of God, I'm going to go higher. I'm going to go to the top. I will make myself like the Most High. You see, the root of Satan's rebellion, Lucifer's rebellion, is personal ambition and pride. That's what he does. He operates out of, I am better. What I am doing is better. My way or the highway. Personal ambition and pride. And Satan implants this desire to be equal with the Most High God. Where? In your hearts. My heart. And he's all the time prowling around, trying to find some opportunity to put into your heart proud thought, an ambitious thought, a thought that is going to enable you to rise above God, because He will put in your mind you really know better than God. I want us to think about that. How many times have you said, I don't need to pray. I know what the Bible says, but I don't really need to do that. Tithing. Relationships. What you watch. I'm okay. It's not going to hurt me. I know better than God. It's in His Word. Read it this morning. But I'll be all right. See? Did it yesterday. No lightning bolts. I'm okay. He puts it in our hearts. He implants this desire to be equal to the Most High God in the hearts of people. And of course, what does that do? It creates spiritual conflicts. Let me take you to another passage in Ezekiel chapter 28. In some ways, it's a bit similar. Now, I'm going to take you very quickly through Ezekiel 28 because there's a lot of material there again. We have two characters. At the start of Ezekiel 28, and I don't have the verses for this, we meet the ruler of Tyre. Now, Tyre, spelt like the car tyre, Tyre, but it's also a town, an area right up near the Mediterranean Sea, west of Israel. The ruler of Tyre that is addressed in Ezekiel 28 is a person. And this person claims to be God. He is ambitious, but yet he is a person. Now we read down in Ezekiel 28 and we come up against another name, and this name is King of Tyre. So why is there a ruler of Tyre and a king of Tyre? Well, the king of Tyre, and the Bible tells us, and again I haven't got the verses to put up, but it tells us this king of Tyre lived in Eden. Now there's a clue. We're not talking about a person here. He was a guardian cherub. Now that's clear as crystal, isn't it? You know, this is not a person. And he became proud because of his beauty. And then it goes on and becomes clearer that Satan was thrown to earth, where conflict between God and Satan continues. And we pick it up in verse 15 on the screen. You were blameless in your ways. This is talking about Lucifer. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. And some people ask, you know, why did God create evil? I believe this passage, this verse answers that. I believe what happened was God created Satan to be one of the great angels, one of the great chief cherubs. And he gave him responsibility, but he became proud. And when he became proud, wickedness was found in him. And then in verse 16, through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, I expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. And that's picturesque language for heaven, the very presence of God, third heaven. So Satan still today fights against God. He fights against the purposes of God, and he fights against the people of God. All right, let me take you to another Old Testament passage. Genesis chapter 32. And I'm going to go very quickly through this.